Hey everyone. Today we're going to be talking about sharks. Sharks are some of my favorite animals. These special fish come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes, but they share some key traits, including numerous sets of teeth that are easily replaced, pointy tooth-like scales called denticles that run only in one direction, the placement of their fins, skeletons made of cartilage instead of bone, and some special senses that we'll talk about later. Today I'm going to be talking about what I think are some of the coolest sharks. There's no way that I'd be able to talk about all the sharks that I think are fascinating in one video, and even the ones I'm going to talk about, I'm only going to talk about briefly just so that we can have a condensed video. So here is a very condensed, very brief introduction to what I think are the top 15 cool sharks.
Number 15.
First off are angel sharks. They look a little like skates, which are close relatives to sharks on the fish family tree. They prefer to live closer to the bottom of shallow seas where they can bury themselves in sand. They're kind of like the carpets of the ocean, if you will. But they're not carpet sharks. We'll get to the real carpet sharks later. Next up are saw sharks. Looking like the fish version of Chainsaw Man, they have long snouts lined with barbels that they use to hunt their prey, much like the similar looking and almost confusingly named sawfish. Sawfish are actually a group of rays, so that makes them more closely related to saw sharks than to bony fish. Sharks, rays, and chimeras, also called ratfish, all have these cartilage skeletons, so they're cartilaginous fishes, and that's why you'll only ever find fossils with shark teeth or jaws, but never any bones. Speaking of teeth and jaws, look at these very cool serrated teeth. These belong to the tiger shark. Much like me when I go to literally any all-you-can-eat place, tiger sharks are notorious for eating just about anything that they can get their jaws on. Sharks, sea snakes, squid, sea cows, they've all been found at one point or another inside the remains of tiger shark stomachs. Now, contrary to what you may have been led to believe, most sharks are docile and will not attack you unless provoked. They are not monsters. However, in the unlikely event that you are attacked by a shark one day, there's a good chance that it's from a bull shark, which is known for being one of the most aggressive sharks. The frequency at which they attack humans, which is still pretty low but higher than average for sharks, is probably in large part because of their proximity to humans. They're one of the few sharks that can be found in both fresh and salt water. By the way, the fish that you'll see sticking to sharks, these are called remoras. They stick to sharks with suckers hanging on for the ride. In exchange for protection and transport, they eat parasites off the shark's skin in a mutualistic relationship. Up next is the thresher shark. Don't let the expressions on their faces fool you into thinking they're oblivious chumps. They use their long tails as whips to shock entire schools of fish and stun their prey to make them easier to catch. Their powerful tails also allow them to completely leap out of the water, something that few sharks can do. I'm just imagining an underwater Indiana Jones movie where he has to find Atlantis or something, and he teams up with a thresher shark and they show off their whip skills. Add that to a list of updated Spielberg adaptations that I want to see. Next up, we have the wobbegong. These are actual carpet sharks. They look like carpets because, like the angel sharks, they're ambush predators who lie on the ocean floor, camouflaging against sand and rocks to hide from their prey until they're ready to strike. I always used to mispronounce their names and call them wobblegongs, and it wasn't until recently when I was playing Hangman that I realized that there wasn't an L in their name. So yeah, that was not the highest point in my life. Next up is the megamouth. No, I will not be hearing you out, freaks. They may be the shark version of Popcat, but their large mouths are actually a result of their feeding habits. They swim around the deep sea with their mouths open and swallow whatever plankton and jellyfish come by, filtering out the water, called filter feeding. The two largest shark species that we know of that are still around are also filter feeders, but the megamouth is actually much smaller than them, growing up to 5.5 meters long. That's still very large for any fish though. It's also found only in the deep oceans, so it's rarely caught or seen by humans. Speaking of deep sea sharks, here's the goblin shark. Goblin sharks are the only surviving members of what we know of an extremely old lineage that was around before the extinction of the dinosaurs. Their long, strange-looking snouts assist in their electroreception, which we'll be discussing later. Rounding out this streak of deep-sea sharks for now is the frilled shark, an even more ancient member of the shark lineage. Actually, the frilled shark lineage, called Hexancophormes, has the most primitive sharks that we know of. You see that on this cladogram, which shows the evolutionary relationships between sharks. And you know what? It kind of shows. Hexancophormes dates back to the early Jurassic period, about 190 million years ago, during the time of earlier dinosaurs like Dilophosaurus. Just to be clear though, this doesn't mean that frilled sharks were around during the Jurassic, just that their ancestors branched off from the rest of the shark lineage at that time. And this lineage also contains some other modern sharks like cow sharks and six-gill sharks, but they don't look as, quote, prehistoric to the internet as frilled sharks, which is why I guess they don't get as much attention. Speaking of prehistoric animals, did you know that plesiosaurs, the big swimming reptiles, no, they're not swimming dinosaurs, but the big swimming reptiles that lived during the dinosaur times are still around? Yeah, if you look at reputable, peer-reviewed scientific sources like Answers in Genesis or Fountain of Life Ministry, you'll find that fishermen have been hauling up plesiosaur carcasses for years. Just look at this plesiosaur carcass pulled up by Japanese fishermen in the 70s. Just kidding, this is actually the carcass of a basking shark. Basking sharks are the second largest shark in the world, and like megamouths, are filter feeders, filtering plankton through the water as they swim. When they die, their lower jaws decompose first, leaving behind the cartilage composing their upper jaw, back, and limbs, making it look like we have a plesiosaur. Up next is the great white shark. There's a reason they're so well known. They're some of the ocean's most powerful predators, next to orcas. They have some of the strongest bite forces in all of nature, can straight up toss seals out of the water, and can smell blood at concentrations as low as 1 part per million, which is like being able to sense a drop of blood in a small bathtub. But in my opinion, their coolest sense is their electroreception, the ability to detect electric fields. You see, there are electric fields produced by your body every time you move in order to contract your muscles, and fish are no exception to that. In water, even stationary fish have just enough ion flow in their bodies that there's a tiny electric field around them called a bioelectric field, and this field only becomes stronger if the animal is swimming or moving any muscles. All sharks can sense these electric fields in water because of their special sense organs called the ampullae of Lorenzini, but great whites are especially good at it. The combination of their smell and ability to sense even very small electric fields produced by swimming animals makes them some of the best trackers in the entire ocean. In short, great whites are some of the best hunters evolution ever produced in my opinion. Although keep in mind that they are not the killer monsters that will straight up attack any human that they see. That's a myth. Great whites may be the largest known predatory fish, but they're not the biggest fish in the world. That title goes to whale sharks, which can grow up to 40 feet long and are actually gentle giants who just eat plankton by, once again, filter feeding like the basking and megamouth sharks. In some tourist spots, especially in the Philippines, you can even swim alongside them, although they're quite endangered and we definitely should be doing more to protect them and the tropical habitats that they live in. So we've gone over the 3 largest sharks in the world, but what do some of the smaller sharks look like? I present to you the cookie cutter shark. Just a bit of a warning ahead, we are going to be looking at some pictures of blood and animal injuries, so that is your warning. In 3, 2, 1. They literally bite their prey and remove a round chunk of flesh before swimming away, and that's terrifying. Those thick lips of theirs serve as suction cups so that they can hold onto their prey when they take a bite. Fun history fact. During the Cold War, American submarines found cookie-cutter shark bites on their sonar equipment, and the damage was significant enough that they initially thought that there was a secret Soviet superweapon that was fucking with their sonar. And if that's not enough, they glow in the dark. If you ask me, these guys would be right at home on the show Shark Tank, alongside some other blood-sucking capitalist parasites. So far we've talked about weird mouths and weird snouts, but now let's talk about weird eyes. The hammerhead shark's wide head allows it to make sharp turns more quickly, have extremely precise, nearly 360-degree vision, and gives them some of the best electroreception out of all sharks. According to shark researcher Steve Kaijira, newborn bonnet-head hammerhead sharks, which by the way are not the sharks you're looking at right now, are able to detect electric fields less than 1 nanovolt per centimeter, which would be like sensing flashlight batteries connected to electrodes 16,000 kilometers apart. That's like the distance from New York to Hong Kong. Now, granted, in real life, you probably wouldn't be able to have sharks sensing batteries across the ocean, especially with all the different counteracting fields in salt water. But controlled experiments have consistently shown that hammerheads have some of, if not the best sensory abilities in the entire world. But in my opinion, the coolest shark in the world is the Greenland shark, and I'm not just saying that because it lives in the Arctic. You see, the water that Greenland sharks live in is so cold that they need to have actual antifreeze in their blood. They use a molecule called trimethylamine N-oxide, which breaks down in their body to form ammonia and formaldehyde, in household terms, basically fertilizer and embalming fluid respectively. This means that their meat is incredibly toxic and would kill you if you tried to eat it. But somehow, ancient Icelanders figured out that if you let Greenland shark meat sit in the dark for months to ferment, it will eventually become safe enough to eat. They call it, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of this word, hakaro. Yeah, I looked it up and I don't even know if I can say it properly, but it's a traditional delicacy in coastal Icelandic communities. Gordon Ramsay is on record trying it and spitting it out, but he didn't say it's the worst thing he's ever eaten. So there's a chance it's not as bad as some of the things he's had on Kitchen Nightmares. That's not the strangest thing about them, though. See, a while back, scientists for some reason decided to carbon date the eye lenses of Greenland sharks. Radiometric dating is the process of comparing ratios of different isotopes of elements in order to determine how old something is. Without going into the math, when elements are radioactive, they tend to decompose into more stable forms at known rates, and this is called radioactive decay. By measuring the ratio of radioactive and stable isotopes, we can determine how old an object is, and this is really the only kind of dating most chemists know how to do. Now, take a look at their weirdly human-looking eyes. Because the eye lenses of Greenland sharks stop growing once the shark is sexually mature, we can measure the ratio of carbon-14 and carbon-13, two forms of carbon, to calculate their age. And it turns out that the oldest Greenland shark we've ever found was at the very least, 272 years old. That meant that at the time of this study, there was a shark that was born, at the very least, in 1744. 1744. There are probably Greenland sharks swimming around in the Arctic today who are older than most countries. And while we're talking about their eyes, Greenland sharks are almost entirely blind on account of a parasite called omatocoida that infests their eyes. There's some speculation from fishermen in the Arctic that the parasite is bioluminescent and thus attracts prey to the Greenland shark. I have to give the disclaimer that this hypothesis hasn't been demonstrated by science and observation, and the sharks hunt just fine with their poor vision. There's no real proof for this bioluminescence hypothesis. Just imagine how this relationship could have evolved. 4 sharks are out. I'm out. 5 sharks are out. Only the Greenland shark remains. The omatocoida parasite is seeking a host in exchange for its survival. I'm prepared to offer you permanent food and housing on my body in exchange for literally anything. Sorry, I'm not prepared to give up that much equity. You do live in freezing cold waters that are so dark your vision is pretty much useless. How about I live in your eyes, which you don't even use?
You got a deal.
Yes, done.
So those are my favorite sharks. What are yours? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. That's all for now, and as always, thanks for watching.